Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new IDontWorkHereLady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, Don't You Know Who We Are? I had already switched from chef work to sommelier work, having left my first big sommelier job to take over as head sommelier/executive manager of a restaurant group. The city I lived in was the capital, lots of embassies and lots of politicians, so the high-end restaurants would often get large parties of politicians and ambassadors. Because of this sort of clientele, we had very high-end wine lists at all our restaurants, but not all of them were super expensive food-wise, and our house wine was very affordable, also had lots of good wine by the glass. This made some of our locations very popular as a lunch spot for servers who worked in the area. One cloudy day I was sitting in a corner banquette, just doing paperwork, enjoying some moussaka roll-ups, like eggplant parmigiana almost but rolled up, and with mashed potato inside as well as the cheese, tomato, and herbs. This was a specialty for this Greek mise restaurant. The server on duty was pretty busy. She was new and didn't know me. I knew her though. She was doing all right serving everyone without too much problem. No one was waiting more than a few minutes to get attention. There was also a server from the restaurant across the street, not part of my group, but a regular, sitting and having a glass of house wine as she was organizing her tips from her shift. She looked like a server in blacks, with a black short apron. Similar uniform to what was worn in our restaurant. In walks a bunch of people, group of 6. I recognized one of them as an ambassador's aide, didn't recognize the others, 4 guys and 2 women, one of whom had the classic Karen hairdo. They don't wait at the front where the sign says to wait to be seated. They walk right into the dining room, push 2 tables together and grab extra chairs. They're sitting sprawling, taking up lots of room in the middle of the dining room, talking loudly about how this place has a great wine list. One of them says he's gonna order. They have now been in the restaurant for less than 2 minutes total. The server on duty can't see them from the corner where they do their side duties. She had been in the back serving the VIP room. At this point, the group are already starting to complain that they haven't been served yet, which is when they notice the server from the other restaurant, who is just enjoying her glass of wine. Ambassador's aide substantially louder than it needed to be. Hey you can't drink on the job. Why haven't you taken our order yet? Karen hairdo. Not at all under her breath. I can't believe how unprofessional that girl is. Then to the girl, we'll have you fired for this. Do you know who we are? Ambassador's aide. This is an outrage. Not our server girl. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't work here. I work at a different restaurant. I'm sure a server will be here to take your order soon. Karen hairdo. Don't you give us the bullcrap, you lazy good for nothing. Incoherent mumbles. At this point, I'm already not liking where this is going, but I decide to wait a minute to see how the new server handles it. She has arrived with her customer service smile plastered across her face. Actual server. Pardon me, I'm Mandy and will be your server for the day. Can I take your order? Karen hairdo. Finally. We've been waiting here for 20 minutes, maybe 3 tops, with no service, and your colleague here didn't even get up to greet us. She's just getting drunk. You can't drink on the clock, directed with malice at the innocent server girl from another restaurant. You need to fire her right now. I demand to speak to your manager. Do you even know who I am? I work for the redacted consulate. I could have both your jobs for this. It was at this point I finally recognized the lady. She was a receptionist for the consulate where she worked. I had seen her a year and a bit prior when she came with a large group for their office Christmas party. I could have stepped in at this point, but I was curious how the new server, Mandy, would handle this. Mandy in an apologetic tone. I'm so sorry, but I didn't see you arrive. Normally people wait to be seated as the sign asks, so I couldn't see you all sitting here. Please don't badger our guests though. That lady doesn't work here and is a paying customer. I believe she works at another restaurant down the street. Karen hairdo cuts her off. Don't you dare lie to me, you little redacted racial slur. I'd eat liars like you for breakfast. Rest of the 6 are egging Karen hairdo on at this point, and I can see this may be escalating beyond what the server can handle. So I text the owner's son who lives upstairs. He's also a part owner in the group, and sometimes does some managing of this location, happens to also be a bodybuilder and is huge. Less than 30 seconds later, I get a BRT yelling in a shrill, indignant voice. Where is your manager? Hit him now. You can't treat us like this. We are important people. Mandy was starting to look like she was going to cry at this point, and the not our server is shrinking back into the banquette as both of them were being yelled at incoherently by this group of 6 rude flunkies. At this point, the assistant floor manager has arrived due to the screeching, but the 6 insane screechers are just ignoring her. I stand, take a couple steps toward them, take a deep breath, and at the top of my lungs shout, "Quiet now." I was an actor in high school and know how to project, so my voice fills the room. Everyone stops their shouting and turns to me. Me, at a more reasonable voice level. "Okay, so here's what's going to happen. None of you need to speak to a manager. What you need to do is grab your stuff and get out. I won't have you shouting at my server or my guests. No one deserves to be talked to the way you have been. And before you indignantly ask me if I know who you are, I do. I know exactly who you are, and I know your boss, and your boss's boss, both of whom love eating here and would be appalled at your behavior." At this point, I notice Matthew, the owner's son, has just come in through the kitchen door, dressed in his gym gear, glistening with sweat like some sort of Greek statue of Heracles, 6'4" and nearly 300 pounds of muscle. The look on his face just screams, "I just got here, and I'm already completely done with this." I can see Karen Hairdo is about to protest, but I hold up my hand. And in my no-nonsense commanding voice, "No, this is not a discussion. Get up and go now." Karen Hairdo, in an injured, indignant tone, "Well, I never." Me, matter-of-factly, "And you never will again. You can consider yourselves banned from this establishment." Matthew, owner's son/part owner, rather louder than he really needed to be, "Get out of my restaurant and don't even think of coming back. You're all going on the blacklist." Matthew's colossal form starts moving towards them, and it seems the look on his face was enough to end any further discussion as the group grab their things and rush out of the restaurant. I thank Matt for coming down and interrupting his workout for the assist. The manager comps the not our server's meal and wine for a marred experience. Our server is told she did nothing wrong, that it's okay, she's not in any danger of being fired, and in fact handled it about as well as she could have. She is given the rest of the day off with pay. The group each have a headshot pulled from security cams and are added to our digital blacklist, but it doesn't end there. I call the consulate and talk with the ambassador, who is appalled by the behavior of his staff, all of whom arrived back at the consulate that day to find they had been fired for attempting to use their job to bully others. He comes in personally the next week to apologize to our server, manager, and the owners stum in person, and assure us that the group no longer work at the consulate. Moral of the story: never use your position of perceived power to bully others. You may well end up losing that position. The next story is titled "Trespassing on My Own Property." My dad grew up dirt poor, didn't even have indoor plumbing until the 70s, so after he got financially secure, one of his lifelong dreams was to have a little plot of land as a getaway, a place to go hunting, or just get away from people for a bit. So we ended up with this plot in rural Missouri, where the rocky soil wasn't great for farming, and no real draws for people to build there. Didn't matter for my dad, as he didn't want it for stuff that normally increased property value. As a kid, we'd go there and hike, and stuff like that. At one point, the lead mine in town shut down, and that was the main source of revenue for the area. Things got pretty lean there as many were out of work. Anyway, we're out there hunting, and we see some signs of logging. Well, we knew it wasn't us, so we get a little on edge. Then we hear a four-wheeler off in the distance, coming in our direction. 2 guys jump off, and are yelling at us to get off their property, or they would have us arrested for trespassing on their property. The passenger on the four-wheeler jumps forward with a big splitting maul, trying to scare us. Unfortunately for him, that was not the impact he had, as he was much smaller than we were. Plus, as I said, we were there hunting, so we're armed appropriately. My dad simply tells him that the deed he holds to the property states differently, as it doesn't show their name, and that we were fully prepared to defend ourselves should they threaten us with that maul any further. Very much speak softly, carry big stick. The 2 guys jumped back on the four-wheeler and lit out of there faster than Richard Petty. They even left behind that mall. They lost its appeal for my dad, as it was supposed to be a place to get away from people, not somewhere to go and get threatened, so he sold it. The next story is titled, "I Was Just Fired for the Second Time, After Quitting Years Ago." Long story short, in 2014 I was working at a pizza chain in a rural Utah farming town. I won't say which one, but they're a national chain known for being greasy. At the beginning of July, I gave a 2-week notice to my manager that I'd be leaving to move out of state to be closer to family and a better job market. I finished out my time as promised, moved, found a new, better gig, and that was that. Of course, you read the title, so you know that wasn't really all. In summer of 2015, I received a call from a news store manager. He informed me that he's been putting me on schedule and it was unacceptable that I wasn't even coming in to look. If I didn't show up today, he would have no choice but to fire me. I asked, did the old manager not take me out of the system after I quit last year? He grumbled and made some snarky complaint that if I had quit a year ago, I wouldn't be in his scheduling program. I let him know I live in a completely different state and working a completely different job and would not be showing up for any shifts he scheduled me for. He threatened to fire me again, and I reiterated, hey, I don't actually work for you, so do what you gotta. He hung up, and that was the last I heard of it. Until we fast forward to yesterday. I received a letter from the corporate office informing me that, per their records, I haven't shown up to work since July 2014, and, unfortunately, they were going to have to terminate me. I still almost can't stop laughing, especially since, they sent the letter to the address I gave them when I quit. The next story is titled, Yes, I work there, and there, but not here. A wholesome little story. I hope this fits here. If not, I'll take it down. It's a nice little story. Nobody gets crazy. I actually have a lot of jobs. I think I'm up to 5 at the moment. All 0 hours, flexible and freelance stuff. I've had to jump around a lot if I want to make full-time pay. Most of my jobs involve caring for or entertaining children in some way. There's this one little girl, I'll call her Jane. She's about 6 and lives in my town, has a few younger siblings, and keeps showing up at my various jobs. We don't really know each other, I just recognize her face, and she recognizes mine. Each time she finds me, she gets more and more confused. So during the school holidays, our interactions were sort of like, week 1, I painted her brother's face at the fair. Week 2, I helped her sister choose a book at the library event. Week 3, I sold something to her mama at the shop, etc., and so on. I've never interacted with her directly, but I've seen her at least once a week all summer. Each time she clocks me at a different job, I can see her little brain trying to figure out why I'm also here. I think I'm starting to scare her a little, like maybe I'm following her or something. No one else in her family seems to notice or remember me. So the town had this big event at the end of summer. I was not working. I was there enjoying some candy floss and chilling out, dressed in jeans and a t-shirt. I'm sitting on the benches and Jane and her family walk past. Her head turns all the way round as she stares at me. I can see her brain freaking out a little bit. Why am I here too? I give her a little wave, she waves back and off she goes. About half an hour later, I'm watching the school kids perform their little show, and I feel a tug on my sleeve. It's little Jane, tears in her eyes. She asks if I can help. This is the first time she's ever spoken to me, but she's lost her mom, and she needs help. So of course I'm going to help her. Having worked with kids, I know the drill. I get the info we need. Mom's name, what she's wearing, I couldn't remember. We find the lost children's stand and get the staff to send out a message for the mom. I assure her that Mummy is looking for her and will wait here till she finds us. She's holding my hand as we wait and she says, I'm glad you work here too. I didn't have the heart to correct her. The next story is titled, No, I Won't Make You a Goddamn Sub. Congrats on getting banned from Publix. I used to work in the deli of a Publix down in Florida, which is a fairly large grocery chain in the southeast. The Publix I worked in was fairly close to the Villages, which is the largest retirement community in the country. Probably something in the range of 2/3 RDS of all customers in the store were retirees. There was a larger than average number of rude customers, but there were a few regulars who were really. A 70-ish-year-old woman came in every Sunday and ordered the same thing, a toasted chicken tender sub with shredded pepper jack cheese. She was also the pushiest idiot I've ever had the displeasure of meeting. If there was a line and she was forced to wait, she'd start yelling that we need to hurry up because some of us have places to be. Would loudly complain that the service here is getting worse every year. Would lean over the counter and snap her fingers at anyone passing by and snap, "Excuse me. I've been waiting for service. Come here." She also had a habit of whistling at people like they were a dog to get their attention. Everyone hated this woman. She never said thank you, always found something wrong with everything you did. This sub is burnt. There isn't enough cheese. I didn't see you wash your hands. I don't want that sub. Go wash your hands and make me a new one. And never even try to be polite. Unfortunately, Publix has a policy of make it right, so we could never tell her to go duck herself like we so desperately wanted to. Eventually, I got fed up with every other guest being a miserable old piece of crap more interested in starting a fight than they were in getting their deli meats, so I quit. 3 days after I quit, I came back into Publix and stopped by the deli to give one of my coworkers his phone charger that I had borrowed. As I turned to leave, that woman stepped out of line and said, "Hey, you work here, don't you? Come take my order." I said, "Sorry, I quit a few days ago. I don't work here anymore." Her, "I just saw you behind the counter talking to someone. If you got time to talk, you have time to help customers." Me, "Sorry, can't help you. They'll be with you soon." I tried to walk away, but she stepped in front of me and grabbed my arm, then pointed her finger in my face and started screaming at me that I was the worst employee she had ever seen, that I always messed up her order, that I should feel lucky to have a job, and that I need to do as she said or she would tell my manager. I yanked my arm out of her grip, told her to go duck herself, then walked over to the customer service counter and told the manager there that there was someone harassing other customers in the deli line. He said he had heard someone shrieking about something and was about to go see what it was. So he and I walked back over to the deli and I pointed her out to the manager. After a short conversation in which he asked her if anything was wrong, she started complaining to him that I was rude and unwilling to help. He told her that I no longer worked here. She was disturbing other customers and had to leave, and wouldn't be welcome back. She left complaining that Publix sucked, and she would be calling corporate to file a complaint, and I got a few texts from my old coworkers, thanking me for getting rid of her. Glad to help, and see you never, you old hag. The next story is titled I Eat Breakfast at McDonald's, Racism Ensues. Happened perhaps 15 minutes ago. For context, I'm South Indian, and currently live in a mid-sized German town. I woke up a bit earlier than usual, so figured I'd stop at the McDonald's for some breakfast. I get my food, and I'm sitting at one of the tables by the entrance, and it's pretty early, so I'm also the only customer in the restaurant. I also have my headphones and watching a YouTube video on my iPad. Someone interrupts with a good morning. That was odd, seeing as I'm in Germany. Why not Guten Morgen? It's this older woman, perhaps about 50, with an open beer bottle in her hand, not that that's too unusual over here, apart from maybe the time of day, and tells me there's no one at the counter to serve her. When I inform her in German that I didn't work there, she refused to believe me. "But you're Indian." So, I asked. "Indians all have crap jobs," she replied. Then she started raising her voice, ranting that since I didn't work at the McDonald's, it followed I didn't work anywhere, and that immigrants were ruining Germany, and how the AfD, far-right party, had the right idea. She wasn't done yet though. She saw fit to spit in my tray and told me to lick it. By then a manager had come over, so she'd heard the rant and witnessed the spitting. She asked me if I wanted to call the police. I did, but I also had a job to get to, so I declined. I'm a teacher, and there are exams today, and I'd promised a revision class. So if I didn't make it in or was delayed, the students would be screwed. I'm not sure how it ended. The manager have acted herself, I'm not sure. She replaced my whole meal gratis, which was nice because I'd pretty much finished. Guess I have some snacks for the day. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.